being that the Prophet Muhammad was God's servant, he really shouldn't have had any problems at all. And if you read the Quran from cover to cover as I have, hundreds of times, you begin to realize that Allah's way of solving problems is through war, destruction, plagues, cursing people and suffering, just like the God of the Bible. Many say, in the Quran it tells you that Allah knows what is best. So wouldn't whatever decision Allah make be the best one? You tell me, would the best decision be to send down from heaven 3,000 angels to help Muhammad kill the opposing tribe, or simply make peace between the two tribes and end the fighting? And you can't tell that peace is not the right decision, because that is what the Quran, which is supposed to be the words of Allah, promises when you go to paradise. So, that means that your God does know about peace and harmony. Right in Quran 3:123-125 it says that Allah specially sent 3,000 messengers, angels, to help Muslims fight in the Battle of Badr. Quran 3:123-125, God had helped you at Badr, when ye were a contemptible little force, then fear Allah, thus may ye show your gratitude. Remember thou saidst to the faithful, is it not enough for you that Allah should help you with 3,000 angels, specially, sent down? Yea, if ye remain firm, and act aright, even if the enemy should rush here on you in hot haste, your Lord would help you with 5,000 angels make a terrific onslaught. I look at this two ways. 1. If Allah can send 3,000 messengers, men, to kill Muhammad's opposers, why couldn't he have sent those same 3,000 messengers, men, with some food to help feed the poor, starving Muslim countries? Wouldn't that have been more godlike? Or 2, why send the angels? Why not just eliminate the thought of opposition and make peace between Muhammad and the Quraysh tribe? Why is God's only solution war, and not peace? In verse 125, God is talking about sending down more angels, 2,000 to be exact, to help make a terrific onslaught. The Ashuric/Syriac, Arabic, word being used here for onslaught in Musa'amim, which means afflict, impose hardship, punishment upon and to onslaught. According to Yusuf Ali's translation of the Quran. According to the American Heritage Dictionary, the word onslaught means a violent attack, 2, an overwhelming outpouring, to slaughter, to kill. This is telling you a lot about your Allah's character. This is not the only time your Allah has killed. Allah even causes people to die, and puts them in a grave in Quran 80:21. Then he causeth him to die, and putteth him in his grave. Quran 9:30, what the unbelievers of old used to say. God's curse be on them, how they are deluded away from the truth. TN this very quote, translators are deceiving non-Arabic speaking Muslims because the Ashuric/Syriac, Arabic, word that is used in this quote for curse is takshalem, meaning to kill them. According to the Dictionary and Glossary of the Quran by J. Penrice, takshalem comes from the root word katala, meaning to kill, or slay. However, the translators try to hide the Arabic word takshalem, to kill, under the English word curse. The words curse and kill are two different words with two different meanings. You will find this same word, takshalem, in Quran 8:17. It is not ye who slew them. It was God, when thou threwest a handful of dust, it was not thy act, but God's, in order that he might test the believers by gracious trial for himself. For God is he who heareth and knoweth all things. And Muslims are trying to make this sound honorable. So when you try to tell me that your Allah is Al-Wadud, the loving, it is obvious that you are under a deep spell called religion, because the Allah of the Quran is not kind, gentle, and loving. The same amount of energy it takes your Allah to kill a person, he could have used it to convert the hearts of those people. Furthermore, if your Allah wouldn't allow these kinds of things to exist, there wouldn't be any need to kill anyone. Allah flexes his muscles again in Quran 6:133, where he tells you what he could and could not do, if he felt like it. In other words, threats to destroy and then raise another nation. Quran 6:133, thy Lord is self-sufficient, full of mercy, if were his will, he could destroy you, and in your place appoint whom he will as your successors, even as he raised you up from the posterity of other people. Now I have a question for you. As you can see, Allah avenges, which is his 80th attribute al-Muntakamu, whom he wants, and if Allah makes all of the decisions, why do Muslims find it necessary to take Allah's job into their own hands? By that I mean, if Muslims really believe that Allah is the avenger, there wouldn't have been any need for the World Trade Center bombing. Allah would have taken care of it. Right? Muslims are fighting with Israelis every day and the death and destruction is phenomenal. Why? In an article written in the New York Times, states that 3 radio disc jockeys walked into a Muslim mosque while people were praying. These 3 men walked in with their shoes on and played music, which is a total desecration in Islam. Why would your Allah allow this to happen inside of his holy mosques, while these devoted Muslims were making salat, prayer? This means that the prayers that they were sending to Allah, were interrupted by what Muslims called kafirs. Why did Allah allow these men to interrupt the prayer that was being sent to him? This goes to show your Allah is not as powerful as you think he is. In the following article taken from Reuters news service, I want you to understand for yourself how fanatical Muslims think and see how much logic and reasoning is behind what he is doing. Taken from America Online Reuters, Kabul, the Taliban have started forcibly cutting hair in Kabul in their drive to turn Afghanistan into the world's purest Islamic state. We are cutting hair that hangs over the forehead because when you pray it gets in the way of your forehead touching the ground. The devil stands between you and God, Maulawi Abdul Rashid Darkasti of the Taliban religious police told reporters. Darkasti, armed with a pair of scissors, stood as a traffic circle Tuesday amid piles of severed forelocks. He stopped buses and cyclists, removing people's hats to check if anyone was hiding offensive amounts of hair. We have cut the hair of 56 people already today, Darkasti said, his voice ringing with enthusiasm. He is the head of the religious police, formerly known as the Department for Promoting Virtue and Preventing Vice. In southwestern Kabul, an official decree bans English and American haircuts, although the definition of what constitutes an English or American haircut remains fuzzy. Ask yourself really, what could possibly stand between you and Allah, who is supposed to be the greatest, and the creator of the boundless universe? Quran 80:34. Certainly not a lock of hair. This is the kind of nonsense Islam teaches and the kind of nonsense I can do without. So why do Muslims sacrifice animals as a part of their religious rituals? Because like the God of the Bible, their God likes the sweet savor of burnt carcasses, Exodus 29:18. Every year during Hajj, thousands of goats' throats are cut, just so Muslims can pour their blood on the ground at a certain spot. This is called Eid al-Adha, Feast of Sacrifice. The word Adha literally means to cut the throat. This ritual is performed to commemorate the Torah's story of Abraham having consented to sacrifice his son, Genesis 22:2. So, at the end of Hajj, Muslims sacrifice a lamb in remembrance of a Bible story which they claim is tampered with. There are several words in Ashuric Syriac, Arabic, for the word sacrifice. There is dabaha, which means to slaughter, slay, sacrifice. It comes from the Aramaic, Hebrew, word for sacrifice, zekbek, which means sacrifice and is from the root word zabak, that is used throughout the Old Testament, Genesis 31:54. This word is used for slaughtering animals, on the great festival of sacrifice, Eid al-Adha, or at ordinary times, for food. And the Greek word used for sacrifice throughout the New Testament is thusia, which means sacrifice, a sacrifice, victim, Matthew 9:13. The Ashuric Syriac, Arabic, dab, is from the Aramaic, Hebrew, word zekbek. The word dab means to split or pierce to cut the throat of any creature. In the Quran, the word is used for the slaughtering of the heifer by Moses, Quran 2:63. It is also used in Quran 2:46 for the killing of the sons of Israel by Pharaoh, for sacrificing to idols, Quran 5:3, and it is also used when Abraham was about to sacrifice his son, Quran 37-101. Qurban is an offering or obligation, a sacrifice. Qurban is considered both wajib, necessary, and ibadah, devotions or commitments. The ritual of Qurban begins by tying all four legs of the goat together. Then the person sacrificing the goat holds it by the neck, cutting the throat of the lamb. He must be sure that he cuts the jugular vein in the neck so the blood can be drained from the body. The spinal cord must not be cut, because the nerve fibers of the heart could be damaged, causing the animal to have a heart attack and stagnating the blood in the vessel of the animal. Since the consuming of blood is haram, forbidden in Islam, it is obligatory to make sure all of the blood is drained completely. It is then that the meat of the slaughtered lamb is lawful. Certain prayers are recited prior to the sacrifice. While sacrificing the animal, the person must look into the eyes of the animal. The neck of the animal must be severed in 3 strokes of the knife. Nar, meaning to injure the jugular vein, used for stabbing the breast of a camel, as in sacrifice, hence the sacrifice itself. It occurs once in the Quran 108-1-2, to sacrifice a camel. The Eid al-Adha is called the Yaa-Nun Nar in Arabia. In the Abdullah Yusuf Ali version of the Quran, commentary 6287, whenever they refer to it, nar, is used for sacrifice. Uziyah, a word which does not occur in the Quran but in the traditions or hadith. Haadi, occurs 4 times in the Quran 2-193, 5-2, 96, and 98, for offering of an animal for sacrifice sent to the Temple of Mecca, when the pilgrim is not able to reach in time. Haadi is the plural form of hadya. The latter occurs in Quran 27:35, for an offering or gift, has the same meaning as the Hebrew mincha, which is used in the Old Testament for a gift or tribute, Genesis 4:3, and also for the unbloody sacrifice or meat offering, Leviticus 2:1. Mansak, occurs in the Quran 22:35, 2-122 and verse 196. Dabaha, occurs in Quran 267, 27-21 and 37-102, and means to slaughter, slay, sacrifice. Dab, occurs in Quran 37-107 and means, that which is slaughtered, a sacrifice. Daka, occurs in Quran 5-3 and means, to slay lawfully, to sacrifice. In the Islamic sacrifice, there are 9 different words about how to kill another one of Allah's creations and none about how to cure or save one. Whose God is responsible for this? Can you imagine how goats must feel in the month of each Ramadan? Why do humans need to sacrifice animals, as a burnt offering to God? Because God loves the sweet savor, or in other words he likes the way it smells? What kind of God do you worship that likes to smell carcasses? Genesis 8:21, Exodus 29:95, in Quran 2-196, Allah tells Muslims if they are prevented from completing Hajj, send an offering for a sacrifice. How do you think goats feel about your God Allah? Quran 2-196, and complete the Hajj or Umrah in the service of God, but if ye are prevented from completing it, send an offering for sacrifice. And at the birth of a child, it is obligatory for the father to sacrifice 1 goat for a girl and 2 for a boy. This ceremony is called akika, from the word ak, meaning to cut, and refers to the cutting of the throat of an animal. Others refer to it as cutting the hair when it is first shaved and its weight in silver is given to the poor. Akika is celebrated on either the 7th, 14th, 21st, 28th or 35th day, after the birth of the child. It is unlawful to offer or sacrifice any animal other than a cow, camel, or a goat. So, God is particular about what kind of animal that is sacrificed for him? A goat doesn't understand that you are doing it for your God because you can see fear in its eyes. The goat only knows that he is going to die. Wouldn't it have been fair if Allah would have created the sacrificial animals to know that they were born to die for him, and that would be their ultimate goal, or special animals were created so that when their time comes, they would go in peace and not fear? Or better yet, why need that at all? There is an advertisement in the Message, an Islamic magazine, telling you to send your money in to reserve a lamb or cow to be slaughtered after Ramadan. They call the program, Eid Zabiha program. Who is the God of these animals? Couldn't be Allah, because Allah is the one who is ordering them to die according to Muslim belief. Now, does it matter if Hajj or the prayers are made in a language or dialect other than that of the Quran? Quran 44:58 says, "We have made it a Quran in Arabic, that ye may be able to understand, and learn wisdom." Right in Muslims hadith they tell you that the Quran was in the Arabic tongue of Quraysh. Sahih al-Bukhari Volume 6, 510, in part, in case you disagree with Zayd bin Thabit on any point in the Quran, then write it in the dialect of Quraysh as the Quran was revealed in their tongue. Any person who didn't know the Arabic language at the time of their Shahada, a ceremony where you bear witness of Allah's aloneness, did not really make their Shahada, simply because when you take your Shahada you have to recite it in the Arabic language. You would have to know the language first, otherwise it really didn't mean anything to you. The same applies when praying. You were just translating words from English into Arabic because the language isn't in your heart. When you make Shahada, you have to recite Iman Mujmal, faith and belief, in which you are saying that you accept Allah with your tongue and heart. Iman Mujmal, faith and belief. My faith is in Allah as He is, by way of His names and His special qualities, and I have accepted all His judgments by reading with my tongue and confirming with my heart. When you were reciting this, you had no idea what you were saying until afterwards when the Imam told you. That is why it is important to at least know the language of the religion you are involved in. And most American imams don't know Arabic, so what they told you was someone else's translation, simply the blind leading the blind. And if Muslims who use these Arabs should at least investigate their character, you should at least try to find out if the mutawife that they hired to perform the Hajj for you is an upright Muslim who reads the Quran, makes 5 daily prayers, does not drink, smoke or patronize prostitution, which would eliminate all of the Saudians. Does the Saudian government, who provides these mutawife for $250 or more for their services, allow the pilgrims to question their religious credibility? How are you sure that the Hajj performed by the hired mutawife will be accepted by Allah? Isn't this taking a chance? This applies to the family members who, according to the Hadith, not the Quran, can make Hajj for you. Sahih al-Bukhari, Volume 9, 418, narrated Ibn Abbas, a woman came to the Prophet and said, "My mother vowed to perform Hajj but she died before performing it. Should I perform the Hajj on her behalf?" He said yes. Perform the Hajj on her behalf. Seem if your mother had been in debt, would you have paid her debt? Would you have paid her debt? She said yes. He said, so you should pay what is for him, as Allah has more right than one should fulfill one's obligations to him. Muhammad basically didn't know. He was using his own opinion on this matter, which means he didn't consult Allah on this matter. So he didn't, and nor do you know how Allah really feels about the situation. If you believe that someone can make Hajj for you, then someone should also be able to make worship, salawat, fast, psalm, pay alms, zakat, and say La ilaha illa Allah. Nothing would exist if Allah didn't create it for you. Did Allah ever say any of this? The non-Arabic speaking Muslims like Americans are paying someone to make Hajj for them. Those of you who went to Mecca, Saudi Arabia, for Hajj, who didn't speak fluent Arabic and hired a man to perform the rites of Hajj for you, you did not make Hajj. It is not the same as when an imam leads you in salat. If this were true, then who gets the blessings? The person doing the reciting for you? What the Quran does say is that no one can intercede for you. Quran 2:48. Thus, you are not a Haji or Hajj, can't you see that? This is like asking someone to eat your dinner for you. The person who ate the food is the person who is receiving the nutrients, not you. So, packaging sacrificial meat and having someone make Hajj for you cannot be found anywhere in the Quran. These are the teachings of Orthodox Sunni Muslims who make up hadith just like they did in the time of Muhammad. They don't always record them down onto paper and declare them hadith. They do it by innovation. By adding things in Islam that cannot be found in the Quran, such as the above mentioned. You had your innovators then, and you definitely have them now. Hadith are the words of men and not the words of Allah. They love nothing more than to have you believe that their word is the truth. However, if the Quran is supposed to be the book that is without doubt and error, Quran 2:1, then you should be following the Quran to the letter and not the traditions and additions that were made by mortal men. I remember, years ago when we used to ask for donations. These same Orthodox Muslims used to call us names such as beggars. We built an entire community and mosque in the short time that we were there. Now they are doing the same thing, just a little more sophisticated. And what do you have to show for yourself? Why isn't your Allah supplying the Bosnians with food, and why isn't He providing you with funds?